Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talks. So I'm finishing up on the Gordon Ryan interview. I've already done a video earlier, talked a little bit about John Danaher, jujitsu, all of that. So Gordon Ryan is badass. He's an incredible guy. He's 25 years old. He is arguably not arguably, he is the world's best jiu-jitsu player. He's just unbelievable. He could kick the shit out of anybody, if you want to use that sort of language. And he's only 25 years old. But when you take a look at Gordon, you like, and the guy's very smart too. So when you look at him, you go, this guy's perfect. He's 25 years old. He's the best jiu-jitsu player in the world. He's a handsome guy. He's got his body, the whole thing. He's got the world by the balls, right? Everybody has something though. I have health issues. Most people do, especially when you get to my age. I mean, Gordon's a young man. Perhaps he shouldn't have what I'm going to tell you in a minute. The problem he has just gastroparesis, and I'll talk to you in a second about this. But really, everyone has their sort of cross to bear, right? So I have a condition. I'm not going to get into it here. I've done videos on this, but I have a neuromuscular condition. It's something called idiopathic epidermal small fiber neuropathy. I've had it for 7 years, and it's something that I just have to live with. And that's why I do this stuff. You know, the kratom, and I have in my pot the CBD oil is to deal with pain. So I have a chronic condition. I'm in pain. I wouldn't say all the time, but much of the time. But for me, it's manageable. And then it's affected some motor function. So I have to, I don't walk like I used to, like a normal person. I can't feel my body. I could feel it, but it's the bottom line. My condition is the nerves in the epidermis are shot. If you want to use that language, they're, if you look at these scans, you could see that it's just like gone. It's just a weird thing. A lot of my nerve cells on my skin have died. So dealing with that is sucks. But the fear, like, is this progressive? Is this degenerative? Is it going to get worse? And then you think of these horrible, horrible neurodegenerative, neuromuscular things, and I don't even want to mention it. It's so fucking horrible. But that's my life. I'm basically good. Well, beside from that, I'm very, very healthy, and I'm in fantastic shape. I work out every day. Blah. That's a long sidebar here to get into sidebar, excuse me. But Gordon Ryan has something called gastroparesis. And here you go. And I'm going to play a little clip here, and he'll tell you himself. So you take a look at Gordon Ryan. You mean you have health issues too? A badass like you? Here we go. Listen.
And the meat is fantastic. What does your diet consist of?
So I actually have a condition called gastroparesis, where your stomach doesn't push the food through down to your intestines how it's supposed to. So the food basically just sits in my stomach for longer than it's supposed to. And I've had this for like 3 years, which is why I'm just constantly nauseous and just can't eat the amount of food that I need to. So I'm basically limited to like chicken and rice and eggs.
See?
And that's all I can eat. I can't eat any red meat because it's hard to digest. I can't eat anything fried. I can't eat cheeseburgers. I can't eat anything spicy. Like, there's a very select amount of foods that I'm actually able to eat.
That's crazy. And when did this start? 3 years ago?
Yeah, so I had recurring staph infections, and it was like I would
And
take
obviously,
oral
you could
antibiotics,
die from
and
staph.
then
I'll be quiet.
I'd be on antibiotics for a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, and then like 4 days later, staph infection. Oral antibiotics, staph infection. And I just had like 4 or 5 staph infections within the course of like 3 to 4 months.
That's
and
crazy.
They don't know what causes gastroparesis. They don't really know too much about it. But I seem to think it was that.
Oh, it's starting to rain here. Huh.
Ever since then, I wake up in the morning, I'm nauseous. I go through the whole day extremely nauseous, and then I just go to sleep nauseous.
So you're nauseous right now?
Yeah, all the time.
Really?
See?
Yeah. So all the time you're like, bleh.
Yeah, so like normally how it goes is like
That's
there's
gotta
at least
be horrible.
1 hour of the day where I'm just like so incapacitated from being nauseous that I have to just sit in the bathroom because I'm just so nauseous I just can't deal with it. So the problem is when I eat food, like, you can manage it with diet, what you eat and how often you eat. So normally what I should be doing is fasting. so my stomach is empty the whole day, and then I just have a meal at nighttime. But I would just
I've always
waste away.
said, like, what are the worst things to deal with? Three of the most horrible things dealing with, your body. And I've talked to my wife, and I go, what are the three? I have three. Top three: burns. Two, not being able to breathe, and number three is nausea. Like terrible nausea. That sucks because you feel. Well, we all know what it is. You feel like you're gonna die. Right up there with burns and asphyxiation. All right. Oh, pretty grim, right? All right. Let me continue.
If I was fasting. So I go kind of in these waves where my stomach's okay for a few months, and then it goes into a bad dip. And when I travel a lot to like compete or to teach or whatever the case is, I'm usually forced to eat at restaurants. And when
You would never think a guy like that
tastes
had
better. They put
this
grease
sort
and
of thing.
butter, and I end up like eating for 4 or 5 days at restaurants, or all this shitty food, and then I'm fucked up for like 2 weeks where I just can't eat anything. So that's why my weight fluctuates depending on how bad my stomach is. But I have to eat every 3 hours, or else I can't get enough calories to maintain my size. So I'm basically just piling food on top of food that's already in my stomach and just not getting pushed through to my intestines.
And this is just to compete at the weight class that you're at.
Yeah, I just generally think that it's better for me to be bigger, because my game isn't based on speed or explosion. It's based on negation of movement. So, negation of movement comes with just being positioned well, having sticky grips, and isometric strength. So even if I get heavier
so fucking
and I
smart.
end up slower, it's not really going to matter for my game. And people
He's
don't
25
realize,
years old.
I'm big, but I'm not
No,
crazy.
let me just pause. All jiu-jitsu players, it's chess. It's chess with your body. They're the smartest people on planet Earth. I'm telling you. Fighters are. I'm really digressing here, but George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre's got that accent, and you might not think he's smart, but he's freaking smart, man. The way he fights, weight distribution, angles, all that stuff. Okay, let me continue on.
Like big compared to like your average heavyweight in grappling. Like Buchecha's like 6'3", 265. Like guys like him, like people I'm competing against are like 250, 260, 270. When I fought Buchecha ADCC, I think he weighed in like 263, and I was 210. So like 50 pounds is 50 pounds. And I think that, if I was able to get up to like a weight where I was like walking around at like 260 and then cutting to 240, I think I would be much better than I am right now. But the problem is I just can't get the calories because of the gastroparesis.
Okay, all right, that's enough. You can actually just listen to it on Spotify, and perhaps I'll even put the link in there. So I guess the point I wanted to make is, you feel like, oh, poor me, or, I have this horrible affliction. And by the way, people have it a lot worse. Here's the saying, it's depressing, but it could always get worse, right? But everyone has their own cross to bear. Some way worse than others. Like, that sucks, being nauseous all the time. But listen, people are fucking born with no arms and legs. Horrible neurodegenerative diseases like ALS and all that. That's just beyond words sad. Okay, so basically, you look at this guy and you're like, no, how this guy has this? Okay. Okay, I'll end it here. Looks like it's going to rain anyway. So Gordon Ryan on Joe Rogan, check it out. We're talking again about John Danaher, how much of an eccentric he is. And he's a genius. And it is true, yes. I talked about in my earlier video, he does have a PhD in philosophy from Columbia, no less. And we're talking about how obsessive he is about kind of really esoteric stuff. Like, he collects knives. It's crazy. Like, what? Like, he's so obsessed with that. And you take a look at John Danaher's life, why he's the best. Number one, he's a freaking genius. And he's obsessed, and he has no other life. John Danaher is not married, doesn't have a family, works out 7 days a week, 24, well, not 24/7, but every day, 365, no days off. And he obsesses. And when he goes home, he doesn't just lie around, he watches film. So he's totally obsessed with jiu-jitsu. He's studying clips. It's his whole life. His whole life is teaching jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts, but mostly jiu-jitsu. Okay, crazy, right? Good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here in Tabor Talk.